Today's show is all about racism, religion, and revenge, which begs the questions. Are you a racist? Are you religious? Do you believe in revenge? I swear to God, if you people turn the channel, I will make you regret it. I'm Alvin King, and this is We Speak. Welcome to We Speak. I'm Alvin King. Please allow me to introduce our panelists for today. At the opposite end of the table, we have a Virginia native, former certified public accountant, a legendary drag performer known to millions as Miss Christina Kelly, the bold and beautiful Christopher Smith. How are you, Christopher?
Thank you for having me.
Interior designer and entertainer known to Washingtonians in the drag world as DC's own Beyonce, the bold and beautiful Miss Riley Knoxx.
What's up, Al?
Hey, Riley. Also joining us today is author and celebrity photographer, the bold and beautiful Mr. James L. Hicks.
Hey, Alvin.
Bold and beautiful.
Yes.
James. And next to James is educator and former radio executive and spokesmodel, Los Angeles native, the bold and beautiful Miss Shaina Edney.
Hey, boo, hey.
Hey, Shaina. Thank you all for being here today. So let's get started. Our topic today, actually, our theme is considered racism, religion, and revenge. So for this show today, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to open it up to all of you to give me your opinions. We're going to take about a minute or so to give me your opinion on racism, just off the top of your head. So we'll start with Chris.
I think the first thing we need to think about is that the public displays racism as only one thing. They have it as black and white. And there are many, many forms of racism. And I think that people need to realize it's not just a black and white issue. Being someone who is biracial, I see both sides of a lot of things. It's not that I disagree or not agree with certain things, but I just feel there's more sides to that issue except for the black and white issue.
Well, of course it is. I mean, we all know that racism extends to not only our black and white issue, but also our economic, when we talk about economics, and when we also talk about our appearance, not from again, black or white issue, we're talking about one being overweight, one being muscular. We talk about it from that angle.
I think they're talking about us. But I do, but funnily enough, I do feel that if you look at the mainstream America, they only talk about the black and white issue. Right. They don't see the other forms of racism that we have. Right.
Riley?
I just think it's amazing to me that in 2013 that we're still having to go through this, that that it's still an issue. As someone who's also biracial, my mom is black, my dad's white, and for me growing up, I never thought anything was odd about my family until I went to school, like one of my first year of school, and some kid asked me, "Who brings you to school?" And I was like, "My dad," and he's like, "Are you adopted?" And I was like, "No." And then it made me think, like, wow, I guess it is different. But that was back then. I'm 32 now. So it's amazing to me that we're still dealing with, race issues or it being something that is taboo, weird. Basically. Yeah, that's taboo. Like that, whether it's a family that's a biracial family or whether it's discrimination against someone who's black, white, Hispanic, overweight, transgender, gay, whatever, discrimination, period. It's just amazing to me.
Do you see it as getting better right now or worse?
I don't know, because I think that it's getting better, and then things like Trayvon Martin happen. So,
I think that situation has catapulted it into the worst because they saw what happened on TV, and everyone is just, it's awful because we take 3 steps forward and then we get knocked 10 steps back.
Gotcha.
So I think that mainstream TV and everything that's going on right now has made it a lot worse than what it needs to be.
So publicized. What about you, James?
In all honesty, I think all of us have a little racist blood going through us. I mean, honestly, I think we all have to admit there are times when we have said things about people from other races in a negative way. I don't consider myself a complete racist, but I know I've made racist comments, and it's not okay. I don't think I would say that to someone's face. It's like just between me and maybe someone who was with me. But and I don't treat anybody differently. But you know, I think we've all been exposed to the stereotypes. We've all experienced certain things from other races, and you know, it comes out.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing you're not a celebrity chef.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think one of the key things is that a lot of times people confuse racism with prejudice and discrimination, and they kind of intermingle them. But racism, I guess if I think about it by definition, I'm a racist, because racism really is just about thinking that your race or one race is dominant in the world. And as a black woman, I think that black people were the first on the earth, so we have the right to be first. So I think we are the best. So I guess I'm a racist. But with me being a racist in that, I don't think that it makes me feel bad about other people, and I don't speak ill towards other people, and I don't have a hatred or a negative feeling. So I think that when people bring in prejudice and discrimination, that's when racism really gets bad. But I'm an enabler, so I'm probably enabling myself.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to move to our first question under racism that we have here. In the African American culture, the word nigger is sometimes passed as a term of endearment. But when used by other cultures, it is considered offensive. Does the word truly belong to one race in the terms of it being okay or not okay to use?
I think the word in itself is ridiculous. I think that if you look at television right now, Paula Deen had that issue where she had used that word. And again, it's not because I'm biracial. I look at everyone's point of view. She used that word and she got scrutinized for it. Yet there are rappers out there making millions of dollars using that exact word. And I feel basically what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You shouldn't be able to just use a word just because it's going to, you know, just because you're going to make some money from it. But you're going to scrutinize another person who used that word, even if it was 20 or 30 years ago. I feel that no one should be able to use certain words and get away with it. And you know what I mean? Just because you have a different color to your skin does not mean you should be able to use the word. And I think we as black people shouldn't use that word either. Because I think that word has such negative connotation. Why should we use that word? Why should I use that word to refer to you?
Well, you know, and I agree with you on many fronts, but as it pertains to Paula Deen, her demise, if you will, wasn't only about her using the word nigger. Her demise was about an act, or that she decided to partake in her profession, which sent a negative connotation to America. You know, and I don't want to go into what she did because this isn't really about Paula, but on the terms of her using the word nigger, it wasn't about just her using nigger. To have an event that
Plantation party.
A plantation party.
Plantation party.
That was a pretty bad move on her part. And I think from a business perspective, maybe she should have thought a little bit about, you know, that act. But in all fairness to Paula, I agree with what you said on some standpoint that the word should not be used. But she took it a step further.
But I also feel that words only hold as much weight as we give them. They only, like, to me, the word, it doesn't describe, every definition I've ever heard of it doesn't describe me, so it doesn't bother me at all. And so I think we give words power, whether it be the bitch or the N-word, whatever. I don't personally use the word, but honestly, it doesn't, to me, it is just that, it's a word. It only has as much power as we give it. If someone calls you that and you respond to that in a negative way, or you let it get to you in that way, then it had a lot of power. Right. To me, you call me that, and it's like, okay, I know who I am. It doesn't matter to me.
I agree with you. Good point.
Yeah, I actually, I don't like the word. I don't. I know there are groups of friends who call each other nigger. I'd never had that. When I was a kid, my grandmother had called me nigger, and don't call me that. I'm not a nigger. Do not call me that. And she stopped. I don't allow people to call me that. You know, I find it terribly offensive just because of, you know, how the word was used. So it's not something that if I say it, I mean it. You know, so because there certainly are niggers out there. You know, and if I call you a nigger, that's because you are. But
no matter what color.
Yeah.
Right, it can be any color.
Exactly.
But that kind of goes back to what I was saying about it holds as much weight as we give it, as much power as we give it. Because say if you and I got into an argument and I really wanted to like get you, I could call you that word because I know that it's going to get to you. You could call me that, and I'm like, whatever, okay, cool. You know, so it has as much power as we give it. And I think it's all just an individual thing. Some people are offended by it, some people are not. It's just the way it is. Yeah.
And I think they always bring the connection to the rap world. And there is a slight difference because there's a difference between the word nigger when non-blacks say it and the word nigga. Some people do it, some people don't. I'm quick to say, oh, they're late, they started late, that's some nigga shit. I'll say it quick, fast, and in a hurry because for lack of a better phrase, it's an idiom. Right. But I didn't say it's nigger shit. Because there is a difference, and that's what you hear the rappers say. Not to say whether it's right or wrong, but there is a huge difference in nigga when black people say it in the black community,
when we say
and
it.
Right.
nigger. It's a different
when
word.
someone else
It has
says
a different context.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a big difference.
Absolutely.
Now, James brought up something when we opened up the monologue, which I thought was quite brave on your part to just say, he said that he has some racism, in him. We've all used it. I have to agree with him on that point. So I'm going to put out to the other three panelists, how do you feel, or do you feel like you have a tinge or a tad bit, or you've ever made a racial comment in your life?
I think even in jest, if we make a comment about another race, even if it's not intended to be derogatory, I think that sometimes we do. I would never consider myself a racist, but I do know that sometimes I've said stuff that's inappropriate about another race, whether it be something to do with their looks or something like that. And it's not that I do it intentionally. Sometimes we do it. You know how we are. We are joking. It's in jest, and we don't think about it at that moment. However, if we step back and look at ourselves like, oh my God, I just basically insulted someone else. Yeah. And sometimes I think a lot of things are said in jest and in joking, which create that problem.
Right.
And we do it to ourselves. That's just like what's saying that's some nigga shit. We do it to ourselves just as equally as we do it to others. I think when you're not necessarily a racist, it's fair game. But if you're the type of person that you only say it about other ethnic groups, then I think that's where the negative racist comes in, and that's when people are like, you've got a problem, you need to check that.
Right. Okay.
The hatred behind it. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Now that we've had a moment to spend on racism, we're going to move to our next topic, which is religion. So I'm going to put out there to everyone, just to have an open discussion with you on this subject. What is your interpretation, or how do you feel about religion?
I think religion is anything that you practice religiously. Anything can be a religion, for anybody. I think there's a difference between religion and spirituality. I think that for me, spirituality is much more important for me than being religious. You can do something religiously and it is a practice and it's something that you're doing repetitively, but that could be anything. It could be my shoes, It could be anything. So religion for me, organized religions though, I'm not a fan of. I grew up in an organized religion. I was raised Jehovah's Witness. And
I knew that.
and I am so far from that now.
Right, okay.
I'm so far from that. And, I think that religion is great for when you're a kid because it teaches you discipline. But I think that when you are, as you grow up and you become an adult, you decide for yourself. And I'm certainly not, say if James is a religious person, absolutely, I'll go to his church, Right. But I'm not someone that needs to be a part of a religion for you to tell me how I should worship my God or how my spirituality, what it's about. So,
all right.
The funny thing is, I've always said to people in public, there are three things I will never discuss. I don't discuss politics, I don't discuss religion, and I will not discuss the guilt or innocence of O.J. Simpson. So, and they always push it. But similar to Riley, religion it's tough, and I think because of what's going on with so many different religions in the media and in our world today, people are losing faith and hope in religion. But spirituality is something that's always there. Your faith is always going to be there. Your belief is always going to be there, no matter what this priest, what the priest is doing, or what the Catholics are doing, or what Eddie Long is doing. Your faith is always going to be there, and for me, that's what's most important, and that's what I stay grounded in.
Whether you go to church or not, your spirituality is there.
And I think religion is also a private thing. I think it's something that who I pray to at night might not necessarily be who you pray to, or who you pray to, or who you pray to. I think religion is something that should be kept personal. I don't think it should be thrown at anybody, because everybody has their own interpretation of what God they pray to at night. And as long as you're having communication with somebody, and somebody, you know, is answering your prayers, and you're trying to answer other people's prayers, I don't think it matters about. Like, I would never judge her for being a Jehovah's Witness. I would never answer my door if she come knocking. But I would not judge her. But I would not judge her for being a Jehovah's Witness. Because you know what Jehovah's Witnesses, you become. I love them, don't get me wrong. But you become a prisoner in your own home.
Your door for them. That's all. Okay, good.
And hide. Do you hide?
Yes. When I was younger, my mom was like, "Don't answer the door."
James.
Well, I guess I would say the definition of religion is a study of or worship of God, different interpretations, different writings. I really wanted to avoid that question because I don't. Yeah, but I mean, I would.
It's personal.
Yeah, I mean, well, but I mean, to define it, it's like it's a study of, you know, a particular doctrine, I guess, and they're different ones, and but I don't equate that with spirituality.
Right.
I think that's a whole nother, you know, category.
Well, you know, if I may interject here, I can go on record as saying I am a devout Pentecostal man, and I know that there are some beliefs or some practices in the Pentecostal faith that I don't particularly understand and agree with, but spiritually, I am moved by the Pentecostal faith, and who I pray to and who I worship, I know is the God that takes care of me. And again, like you, it is a personal thing, and sometimes it's difficult to talk about. But I'm able to talk about it right now and be open with you because I'm comfortable with it. And like anything else, once you're comfortable with something, you can talk about it. So religion is one of those topics that I agree is personal. The question that I want to pose to all of you today is, how do you feel about, I mean, we've all talked about religion, and we know how some of the practices are. We read the news, how some of these preachers have done some really bad things. How do you feel about or interpret the teachings of persons in that position and their teachings, using the teachings of the Bible to reinforce their own agenda?
That's what makes people stop believing in religion, because you see it in pretty much every form of life. When candidates for the presidency are on their trail, the first places they want to stop is at a church. They want to go to the mega churches because they know that through certain people's faith, they can instill whatever their agenda is. When you look at people in the homosexual community, or they try to, the priests try to preach it to their parishioners so that they can go out now and say, this is bad, we don't want to do it. But people definitely take their own thoughts and they try to use the Bible and try to preach it through the word to make other people believe what they want believed. And that's one of the problems that we're having in America with religion.
But I would hope that people, that the world is just a little bit smarter than that, and realize that these people, while they are in these positions, they're still human and they're still imperfect.
That's the piece that everyone misses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people tend to be followers and not leaders.
Right.
And they will follow someone just because they say. And I can look at it and see it's blue, but I tell you it's green, so it must be green, you know. And, oh, God, well, he said it's green, so it must be green, although I can see it's blue, right? You know. And people, I think, are afraid to question.
Right.
You know, and I call them sheeple. You know, you just follow
Sheeple.
without thinking, you know. And it's really scary and it's unfortunate. I've always been an open-minded person, you know, and I was kind of pushed into religion and I pushed right back out. I was like, no, this is not for me.
Well, you know, not on the subject of religion, but for those of you who are watching and our followers, we like all sheeple to watch our show. So please watch our show. Thank you, James.
We're all inclusive.
We're all inclusive.
What sheeples?
We're going to move to the next topic, and this topic is something that I know I'm going to get a lot of questions or a lot of comments out of you. It's called revenge and how you interpret revenge. So before we get into the questions that I have here, you all give me your interpretations of how you feel about the word revenge.
Well, it's not a word that I would, it's not something I would practice. I definitely believe the universe will take care of it. I don't have to do what you did to me. It's already taken care of.
So do you think that revenge is bad?
I think, yes,
You
I
do?
do. I do think it is.
You know,
Yes.
I think that if you're not over it, like if somebody does something to you and you get the chance to get back at them and you don't take that chance, then you're over it. But if you do take that chance, then you're not over it. You know, it's one of those things where if, say, Chris did something wrong to me and, you know, I got the chance to get him back.
And she will.
I will. No, you know, it's like if I'm over it and I have risen above it and I have dealt with it, I've had time to deal with that, then I don't need to take revenge. You know, just like you said, the universe will take care of it. Or not. It's just sort of like if I'm over it, I don't need to react. I don't need to act out revenge. It's very rare that I want revenge on somebody.
And
revenge
it's really
on something
expending a
people
lot of
wrong me a
negative
lot.
energy.
Yeah,
You know,
it takes more time.
Yeah, it does.
See, I don't have time for that.
It takes
I
time,
have that kind of time.
and energy. You know, I believe definitely in trying to stay in the light as much as possible. You know, and if you're trying to take the time and energy to put, you know, to try to get revenge on someone, it's just going to set you back. You know, it's like you send that person light and love and prayers, and you know, and it will be taken care of. That is my belief.
Who says revenge always has to be negative? though?
Right, that's exactly what I'm
that's
thinking.
my
I
thing.
feel that
I mean,
if you're
Positive revenge.
I'll tell you what positive revenge is. Let's say that you are a kid who goes through school, that you're possibly overweight, and you have a group of people that consistently pick on you. Your revenge to them is if you want to go out and better yourself and become slender or a bodybuilder, your revenge back to them for all the stuff that they did to you was, hey, look at me,
Look at me
and
now.
look what I turned out
Exactly,
to be.
right.
So I don't think that revenge always has to be
I
negative.
But you're giving
said
that power
that
to somebody else. It's like that's about you. It's not about them.
Right.
But I do think it's about them, because when you grow up in a society where you're constantly picked at, or have racism thrown at you, your best revenge was being the best person that you could possibly be, and showing them that, hey, look, I rose above of everything you've ever said or done to me.
Well, I do
you
believe
agree?
that success is the best revenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, success is definitely the best revenge. But it also goes back to, do you have something to prove to them or to yourself?
Exactly.
Well, for
But
me,
in this life, I don't think it really matters, because if you want to prove something to yourself, it's fine. If you want to prove something to someone else, it's fine, as long as you're doing something positive for yourself.
Yeah.
I really don't think it matters. And some people need that rectification of, hey, look, I did something to myself. Rather than you go out, and we have a lot of kids that kill themselves over this sort of thing, instead of hurting yourself or damaging yourself, if you want a little bit of positive revenge about being a better person, I say do it.
Well, I'm going to ask you, so which is worse, vengeance or revenge? Does anyone know the difference between the two? Because if I had to pick one that was worse than the other, it would be revenge. Would be the negative. I look at vengeance would be the negative. I look at revenge as Chris looks at it. You know, how many times have you been in a relationship and you've gotten over your that ex and you've moved on, and you go to the movies one night, you're looking like $1 million, and you see them with the most broke down date that you've ever seen in your life, and you just stand there and look at them. At some moment,
That's your revenge.
That is your that without even saying it or putting it into that category of definition. Look at you. Look at them. You may not say, that's the best revenge I've ever had, was seeing you. But that's, to me, is a form of revenge.
I totally agree.
Vengeance is you break up with someone and you burn down their house. That, to me, would be revenge.
Absolutely. I mean, we all love that feeling of reciprocity. You're out, you see your ex. It could be someone who you never dated, someone like you said you went to school with. I just went back home for my reunion, my high school reunion. I'm not going to say which year it was. But my school reunion, and just to walk in and see everyone, anything that I had accomplished through my life wasn't for them, it was really for me. But it did feel good to say, look at it, this is what it is, this is what it does, this is what success looks like. Now, of course, my strive in life wasn't about them. It was about me, but that reciprocity in that moment, it felt good. It felt good to say,
totally
it was
agree.
full circle, and it was amazing. Now, vengeance, no, I wouldn't go through a mess with tear up anything, but
too much energy.
it does feel good.
But I don't know, I think we've all kind of had vengeance in one way, shape, or form in our life. I think we've had some sort of vengeance. I mean, I know that I broke up with somebody and I know that it was something that I might have done to, I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm not a violent person, but I'm saying something that I might have done to them would be my own personal vengeance toward them. If I like threw away his favorite shirt or something like that. So I think we've all kind of had vengeance. I think we've all had revenge, and I think we've all had vengeance.
I'm going to take the spin back around to religion and ask you this question.
That was a big spin.
It's a big spin. It's a big spin. I'm gonna keep it in the same context, but I'm going to ask you: do you believe that a higher power will balance out those situations of which you might seek revenge or vengeance?
Karma is real. What goes around comes
agree.
around, and it'll balance.
Absolutely.
I do believe it'll balance.
You believe this? I have to agree with you. I do. Karma is one of those words that I depend on, and I know exists, and I kind of keep it in my pocket without giving it too much access. There's a new website that's out called Revenge. It was brought to my attention before we started this show. This website allows exes or people who you aren't friends with, who don't like you, to post information about you on the website and actually puts you in a very negative light, and it post nude pictures. They can change the head and face and all these things, and it will allow this person to post this information about you, and in order for you to get it off, it is a $250 charge to you.
I pay it.
Is it called bitter.com?
It's called Revenge.
It's terrible.
So I want to spend a little time to say, is this, when we talk about revenge, is this a type of method that you would use to get back at someone? And how do you feel about that?
Absolutely not.
Well, my first question is, why do you have to pay $250 to get it off? Doesn't make sense.
I didn't create the site, but that is what the site does. Yeah.
That's
I think
extending
that's
a
wrong
lot
and
of
extreme
a
and
lot
like-
of negative energy
Yeah.
to try to get back at someone.
And then karma will get you back.
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely.
I think that's kind of immoral, and I think that's very childish. I don't understand why anybody
They're not over it.
Why you would why they would actually create a website that you were able to demoralize somebody like that.
It's children.
That hurt.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain it's children.
That's kind of ridiculous to me.
We're not even going to give them the time of day to talk about them.
Well, and that's the way I felt. We're about to wrap, and I'd like to go around the table and just have everyone say goodbye to our audience. Thank you. You've been a wonderful panel. So.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Had a great time.
Love having you.
If you would like to join us in our conversation, ask us a question or chat about anything that you have seen on the show, you can hit us up on our Facebook page. Just go to the facebookpage.com and /WeSpeak. That concludes our show for this week. I'd like to thank our panelists again. I also would like to thank our studio audience for being here and you at home for watching. And I ask that you join us again on our next episode of We Speak. Thank you for coming. Have a great evening.